word is powerful. The intention has already been set for us to expand our thoughts, our actions. Our faith should shine through like the brightest sun. Shouldn't it? Because we're coming to know who we are. And with that knowledge of who we are, we're moving into that as a new lifestyle. Renaissance Unity, all is well? And all is in divine order. You know, when I was struggling in life, and all kind of things were coming my way, I used to pray that prayer of serenity that everybody knows. And then as I began to grow and know more, I changed that. So maybe you all stand and just indulge me right now in the prayer that I start off with every day. Moving from simply serenity and accepting the things that I can't change to moving that I can change anything through the Christ that strengthens me. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? A higher level of consciousness to a super consciousness way of thinking, believing, and being. So here's my God wake me up prayer. I'll say it first, then you join in. God wake me to your will for me. To wander and not worry. Give me the freedom to wander in perfect peace. You may be seated. Did you hear that? Being in that space of wanting to wander. W-O-N-D-E-R. And then wanting to move into that space where I wander. W-A-N-D-E-R. And you ask yourself, why would anybody want to be in the space of wandering and then wandering? I know we can't change in the same space and time. And so the essence of change requires us to move from who we are right now, to move away, to not exist anymore, to reshape, reform, resurrect the Spirit of the Christ that lives and breathes in each and every one of us. Last week I was on a national panel about the future of higher education. And this interviewer asked me, did you ever think you would be in the midst of managing a pandemic? Have you ever experienced anything worse than a pandemic? And so I thought about it. And the other panelists, they gave their, said, yeah, no, we never expected this. Who in here ever expected to be in the midst of a pandemic? Raise your hand. But then I thought about it. And I could have went into groupthink and just said, well, no. But then I thought, originality has its place. And I said, well, I've seen pandemics. I've seen endemics before. And he said, how so? I said, well, the most persistent plague I've ever witnessed and experienced is the pandemic, the plague of worry. Can somebody relate to that? From rich to poor, black to white, red, orange, green, there's a pandemic of worrying. Worrying about even unimaginable things. Forecasting the future creates this need to worry and great consternation. Have you experienced worry? Raise your hand if you've ever experienced worry. Now ask yourself, what are you worrying about right now? This very moment. What are you worrying about right now? Are you worrying about your own business or somebody else's business? How many of us are too busy peeking, poking, and prodding in the lives of other people to the point that we can't take care of our own business? My mother used to tell me, mind your own business. Anybody ever heard that? You better mind your own business. But have you ever had that family member, that friend that just loves to gossip about everything and everybody? Not you. Not talking about you. But do you have that friend, that family member who just loves to gossip about everything and everybody? That person who's always peeking out the window. What's going on next door? What's going on across the street? What's going on around the block? That nosy neighbor. I won't take us back too far, but it used to be a show they had this neighbor called Gladys Kravitz. And you remember Miss Roper? Y'all old. AARP. But most people go out of their way, outside of themselves, to avoid looking inside of themselves. Can I say that again to help us out this morning? Most people go out of their way to go outside of themselves instead of looking inside themselves. Can I get a witness? Because it's easy to do that. I even stopped looking at Facebook and the tweets because I knew what was going on. See, in counseling, we call it the avoidance technique. Can we all say avoidance technique? I suffer from that sometimes too. Do you? Avoidance technique. It's easier to watch somebody else's life, their highs and lows, their ups and downs, their falls, than my own self. Isn't it? Much easier. See, most of us have this do not enter sign on us. Stay away. This is private. Keep out. Mind your own business. And I got to share with you. I've been a counselor, a therapist for over 30 years. I've also been a helper, an advisor, a minister for a number of years. And what I discover is everyone is looking for love. Everyone is looking for help. Everyone is looking to be valued. Everyone is looking for a miracle. Everyone is looking for a breakthrough. And everyone, for the young people, is looking for a come up. Everybody is. It's the common denominator. But how do we get those things? Lean in and listen to this solution. You have to have a one-track mind. A one-track mind. Can you say, I need a one-track mind? Now look at the person next to you and say, you need a one-track mind. The one track is, I am one with God. I'm made in the image and likeness of. And so that's the lane that I travel. I have a one-track mind. Joshua 24:15 says, choose this day whom you will serve. But for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Now, most people think you're in a house and you have a family, and it's everybody included. But the me and my house is me, myself, and I. It is my mind, my body, and my spirit. That's what we have to realize. And so with that comes the opportunity to say, there's an urgency for the need to love. Before you craft any opinions, any judgment on anything, there's a super need to love. Why? Because if we're made in the image and likeness of God, there is no other way. God is one track. God is love, and that's all that is. It's love. All that God can give is the energy, the spirit of love. And so if we're acting in accord and alignment with that God that is in us, all we can do is love. And so there's no need to peek outside the window any longer. We stop and we bring ourselves back centered with the alignment of God and say, Lord, grant me the opportunity to wander, and not worry any longer, because I have a one-track mind traveling in one direction. I was so grateful about 2 weeks ago when a person who I had the pleasure of working with for about 6 years called me and said, would you entertain the thought of bringing a special guest to Renaissance Unity? And I said, I don't know. Who is it? Then she told me, I said, oh my goodness, but I didn't show joy. And the message didn't play the calm, cool, collected. Let me check with my people. And if you have people, my people will get with your people. But Miss Nicole Stallworth is outstanding. She's been everything. Elected official, assistant vice president for governmental relations at Oakland University. And now she's left me and moved on to bigger and better things, threw dust in my face. But she is currently the executive director and vice president for public advocacy for Planned Parenthood Advocates of Michigan. I'd like to welcome you, Ms. Nicole Stallworth, to our community. You're all right.
Good morning, Renaissance Unity. Oh, what a joy it is to be in your presence today. And I just want to say thank you for welcoming us and for being in community with us this morning, and to Glenn and to Brett and all the other esteemed leaders of this house and ministers and musicians. Thank you so much for setting the tone for our special guests in this morning's dialogue. I'd like to note that the dust was fairy dust. And I think the important thing to note about sort of the message and tying it into why we're here this morning and that call that was made, today is the Sunday before we have a really big decision to make as a community. And I am one of the co-founders and co-creators of Proposition 3 that is going before voters on Tuesday. And when we decided to go forth with this measure, we did not know what was going to happen. We were not certain that all of the things that happened would in fact happen. And we know and we saw all of the things that occurred that made this such an important issue right now. One of the things that we thought about, though, was the possibility of what could happen. And we thought, what if we could create a citizens-led initiative that is about people, that focuses on people being able to have their reproductive freedom? People who may not know that they may need reproductive freedom. People who may not always have access to reproductive freedom. People who do know that they want and need it. And we thought, what if we could create a citizens-led initiative that's led by citizens that would ensure their own health and prosperity well into the future. And that is what we have done with Proposal 3, and that was our intention with Proposal 3, to make certain that people have the choice to be able to make their own decisions, no matter what someone else thinks. So I just want to say thank you all for having us come today and to talk about this and to reaffirm us as we are going into this election on Tuesday. I also want to bring up one of our esteemed partners and our national leaders, Alexis McGill Johnson, who's the president and CEO for Planned Parenthood Action Fund and Planned Parenthood Federation of America. And this is someone who has been a tireless advocate for people and their reproductive freedoms, for social justice, for voting rights. Someone who has been a tremendous partner to us in Michigan, understanding what the dynamic has been across the country and being someone who's been on the front lines with people who, in fact, some of them have lost hope. We have a chance here in Michigan to be that beacon of light and to be that beacon of hope. And I want to say thank you to you, Alexis, for coming and joining and locking arms with us. And with that, I will welcome you to the podium.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Let me tell you something. I want the church to hold Nicole. Nicole is, when you meet somebody special who is just such a bright light that shines, like literally it burns your eyes, as Dr. Maya Angelou would say. She started this work with her team and with partners to pass Prop 3. No one knows more about what's at stake in this election. No one has been working harder to protect our reproductive freedoms and rights than Nicole Stallworth. So please, can we have one more round of applause for my sister? I am so grateful and I am so honored to be here at Renaissance Unity with you all. Thank you, Reverend Glenn, for that incredible message. Thank you, Pastor Brett, for welcoming me in, and Reverend Wilma for that beautiful morning prayer and meditation. I was taking it all in, and in some ways I think about how special it is for me to be able to stand here, to be humbled, to be in community with you, not just as a leader in the reproductive freedom movement, but as a woman of faith. And to be able to, I think there are lots of people who want to separate out the work of being a fighter around reproductive freedom and the people who believe and love God and Lord, and that's not what we're going to do today. We're going to bring them together because that is so important. I know you can't do this work. You can't sustain this work. You can't ask people to mobilize. You can't ask people to organize. You can't make sure that people are activating their networks, having hard conversations about reproductive freedom and, yes, abortion. You can't fight the crazy misinformation. You can't stand without actually believing that you can make a difference yourself. It's our job in this fight to keep people inspired. It's our job to keep people feeling hopeful. And I loved, Nicole, how you framed that conversation. I love that hope ran through all of the meditations this morning, because that sense of hope, you started not knowing what could happen. Right? You started not knowing what was possible and whether a citizen-led proposal would even take shape or form or catch fire, right? And it has in such a profound, powerful way. And that's not just about hope, right? It's also about faith. It is also about faith. And so I think a lot of what we have to do is reconcile that relationship between faith and between hope. What we need to make and how we need to pay attention to how those things come together. In fact, Hebrews 11:1, faith is the substance of, that's the AARP in me. Let me start that again. In fact, Hebrews 11:1, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. Faith is the substance, the confidence, the assurance, right? The necessary precondition for hope. Hope tells us what that dream could be. Hope allows us to imagine a world of what ifs. What if we could just push past our current reality, right? Hope knows it can happen, but faith gives us the confidence it will happen. The belief that freedom is real if we just do the work of believing. So being here today reminds me, again, as a woman of faith, that faith has an infrastructure. It has a community. It has a church. It has a word. It has a text. It has ritual. It has music. It has all kinds of ways to build an infrastructure around what it means to have a daily practice of faith, to continually recommit yourself to believing. But hope needs an infrastructure too. Hope needs an infrastructure. So I want to talk today just a little bit about what building that infrastructure looks like, how we got here, and what we need to do. And I think we first have to start with this idea that hope, while it's a future intention, it has to be rooted in the reality. The reality is 4 months ago, the Supreme Court took away our right to control our own bodies and our lives. And that reality is that right now, abortion is banned in 18 states. That means 1 in 3 women in this country no longer has access to the care that they need in the state. And we know what that looks like. We know just over the last 4 months, we have seen people getting in their cars, leaving their last shift, end of their shift, and driving no less than 400 miles one way, just to see a doctor, just to get the care that they need. We know that the opposition is not going to stop with just the 18 states where they have tried already to stop getting access to care. We know they're moving to 25 states. And in this election, there is the possibility that if they get into power, they will want nothing less than a national abortion ban. And then they will be coming for contraception. They will be coming for IVF. They will be coming for marriage equality. They will be coming for LGBTQ rights. All kinds of ways, not about caring for us or our bodies or our futures, but really to consolidate and control, to create more opportunities for them to have power. We also know that the reality is that people who will bear the burdens the most, Black, Indigenous, Latino communities, LGBT communities, people with low incomes, rural folks, the same people, the least likely able to afford a pregnancy, afford the gas money, the time off for work, the child care, because most people who are making these decisions are already parents. The same people who are being asked to travel hundreds, even thousands of miles for care. Our colleagues in the reproductive justice movement remind us all the time that we may have had a right in name only for the last 50 years, but many have never had meaningful access to true reproductive health care or health care. Black women in America die more than 3 times the rate of white women during pregnancy. So our ability to control our bodies is also a matter of life and death. The reality is every time I hear a story, and I find myself to be a keeper of stories, you say you work at Planned Parenthood, people want to share. They want to share what they have been through. I keep hearing these stories over the last 4 months of heartbreak. People who have been turned away from clinics, who can't get the care that they desperately need. And even in their despairing, right? Even in their despairing, they don't sit in the despair. They are still looking for a seed of hope. I hear it when my health center staff across the country of our affiliates, they tell me stories of reaching into their desk drawers for snacks, hoping it will help the patients in front of them go on their long drive for their appointment. I hear the hope that they have when they make one more call to the clinic 3 states over just to see if they can fit in one more patient this week. The way they're managing this jigsaw puzzle of appointments being scheduled and rescheduled, sending people on these long journeys. I can see people hoping that they can just help one more person. I think of all of us as being agents of this hope Every call they answer, literally and figuratively, is a hope trying to be realized. It's the hope of someone fighting to be free. And that is the work of hope, including holding people who are despairing and turning their reality into the future. And it's in this reality, if we center our hope on the people most affected, as bleak as it is, if we remember the reality of the outrage we felt when the Supreme Court decision came down, that hope can also be the foundation of our resistance. We also can't build hope or hope infrastructure without a vision, right? You talked about moving mountains. We got to know where you're going to put the mountain when you move it, right? So hope needs a vision. This is our opportunity in this moment, a vision of actually creating something brand new with, equity, inclusion as our North Star. A country where everybody has access to safe abortion, health care is a reality. No matter where you live, no matter how much money you make, no matter who you are. Reproductive health care that is available, that is affordable, that is there when you need it. That includes access to birth control, sex education, medically accurate information. A world where you're free of judgment and stigma and bias, not being in everybody else's business, right? Our rights, human rights that are not dependent on who sits on which court, who is in the White House, who's elected to the State House, and a strong intergenerational, intersectional movement where we meet each other with compassion and affirmation. Isn't that what we all hope for? It's not enough in this moment, as devastated as we are, to fight back just to get to where we were, right? We need to fight forward to where we want to be. And that's what Nicole was talking about in the work that she has built with her partners around Proposition 3. Michigan has the opportunity to make this vision a reality, to put hope and faith to work on Tuesday. Prop 3 is a proposal to amend the state constitution to establish your individual right to reproductive freedom and forbid prosecution of individuals exercising established rights. It will make sure that everyone can access sexual and reproductive health care, birth control, prenatal care, postpartum care, care after a miscarriage. Voting yes on Prop 3 will enshrine abortion protections so that no one in the state can take them away. Every call, every door knock, every letter, every text, every postcard in support of Prop 3 is an act of hope. And I know there has been a ton of misinformation out there about Prop 3. I've only been on the ground for 24 hours and I've already seen it. But make no mistake, it says exactly what it means. And if you have any questions, Nicole is available. There are people here who can answer those questions about what Prop 3 really means. So in just Tuesday, in 2 days, it will be a history-making election in a state that all eyes will be watching. And I'm telling you, I'm betting on hope for this state. If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say this to the mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. But we also know that hope requires work. There are no shortcuts. Hope is hard. It requires discomfort, sacrifice, personal risk. Hope is not charity. It's an act of resistance. And that's the hard truth. Our faith has to be strong and unwavering because there are no shortcuts to hope. It's a long game. The opposition has spent the last 50 years suppressing votes, taking over courts, shaming patients, threatening providers and people who care about freedom. And we're going to spend the next 50 years working across 50 states to organize, fight, and get ourselves back into the Constitution. This fight, this hope, my faith is about justice and freedom. Justice as a fight against discrimination, a fight to be treated equally and to be treated fairly, to be able to live our lives and make our choices without fear that they will be taken away. But faith is about freedom. It's about imagination. And at its most basic level, we recognize freedom as the right to control our own bodies, This control gives us not just the room to dream, but more importantly, the opportunity to realize those dreams. So if justice is a fight to be valued, then freedom is the fight to imagine and actualize that value. That's the difference between being truly seen and being truly allowed to dream. So I'm not here hoping to build an infrastructure for hope's sake, right? We are planting hope. We are growing hope. We are building an infrastructure around hope, because without it, we cannot be free. But we can't do that without a strong sense of who we are, a strong sense of our faith and our purpose. Because I don't want to just be hopeful. I want to be powerful, and I want to be free. So today, tomorrow, Tuesday, you have the power. Your friends and neighbors, your loved ones have the power. Don't squander it. The Calvary isn't coming to save us, because the Calvary is you. So vote yes on Prop 3. That's what I'm here to say. That was my message. And again, I'm incredibly humbled and honored to be here in this community at Renaissance Unity. Thank you so much for having me.
So we have a couple questions for you. So first of all, thanks for sharing your heart this morning. So this journey that you've been called on, what was the motivating, what was the inspiration, what moved you into this space of being the voice for justice and being the voice for reproductive rights and for those whose voices we can't hear if you don't speak? What moved you?
About a decade ago, I was in New York City and I saw a billboard with a young black girl's face on it. And she was so cute, I got close to it. I wanted to just see what she was selling, what she was advertising. And I got closer, and the words underneath it said, "The most dangerous place for an African American is in the womb." And it felt like such a personal assault as a black woman. It felt like such a personal assault to see in bold letters the fact that there are people who literally do not trust me to make decisions about my own body. And it got me fired up. And I found my way into a Planned Parenthood on the board and stepped into the work out of the need to defy everything that was on that billboard.
So one of the things that you and I had talked about leading up to today was this toxicity, this environment that we're in. We believe, Pete Plater, where are you at? Right there. We believe that you're healing, that Joanne and you, in your experience, is healing. We believe in that. We don't believe in the diagnosis, the prognosis. We believe that no matter what's happening, every single day there's a healing taking place for you. We believe in you, Steve Tillander. Where did he go? 42 years sober today. So you were moved by that billboard, the shaming that occurred then. There are people in this room right here who are watching us who have been carrying a wound for a long time. So as you make your way across the country, you see this pain, this toxicity that forces people to withdraw and to carry their pain. What's your vision for health and healing as we move forward?
It's right, Brett. I mean, we all struggle, right? And some pain is enormous, and we buckle under the weight, and some, is enormous just to us, right? It may be, it is perspective, but the commonality is that we all are grappling with something. And what I have seen going across the country is how much people want to be seen, how much people want to be heard, how they want to be in conversation, especially when it's tough, right? Especially when it's tough. People know that they're getting a lot of information out, just over and over again, on repeat, on loop. Everybody recognizes a talking point. Everybody recognizes that there are certain people that are just want you to believe something, but they want to believe in themselves and their own agency to make a decision for themselves. And so across the country, what I have been trying to do in conversation, what folks like Nicole have been doing in every single conversation, is trying to understand where people are, right? Where people are and giving them the information and the facts to help them understand where they want to go. And I recognize, and again, standing here as a woman of faith, standing here in this service, that there is a wide range of opinion on abortion. There's a wide range of opinion that people have that their faith has led them to. And we can still have a divergence of opinion and not believe that the government needs to be in the middle of making those decisions.
So Reverend Wilma, if you'd join me, we have a question, and then Reverend Wilma's going to make a short presentation, and I promise you will not miss that plane. I promise you.
Yes.
We've got some young people here this morning, and I thought about them as we chose to stand here. The need to engage them. So when you think about the next generation, the future generations, those who are here with us this morning who are tired of hearing the same old with no change, what do you say to them? How do we get, from your perspective, what needs to be said? What do we need to do so that we can engage the next generation, so that we can not continue the same pattern, the same battle? You know, they call that insanity. Keep doing the same thing, repeat, you know.
Yeah, so I was one of those people. To remind myself, you know, I was born in 1972. I grew up, you know, as the first generation to have rights afforded to me that were civil rights and reproductive rights. I literally sat at the intersection, say, between second wave feminism and Black power. And I was raised to believe that, you know, my job was to earn what the sacrifices were of previous generations. And I went on and I earned it for me. I really actually wasn't spending a lot of time in movement and work. I wasn't doing what my mom had actually taught me, which was that service is power. And it's in this moment now that I recognize that, you know, so many people, I'm sure many of you all have said, I thought we settled these things, you know, with the Civil Rights Act and with Roe, and how are we back here again? And that is precisely because movements never get settled, right? Freedoms never get settled. They have to be made relevant to every single generation. So to the young folks, I take responsibility for my generation, not the whole generation, but I take responsibility for me and my generation. That we didn't do the work to pass the baton in a lot of ways. But it doesn't mean that it's not too late for us to figure it out together, to pass on what we do know in order to build and imagine a future of where we want to go. And that's what I would say, that we have to stay focused, we have to stay vigilant, and we have to remember this moment because we're not here by accident.
Wow.
Reverend
All
Wilma?
right. This has been such a powerful experience. And I have to say this to you. Someone shared this with me years ago, that behind, and this is for Nicole as well, behind every success is effort. Behind every effort is passion, and behind every passion is someone with the courage to try. And so on behalf of David Coulter, the County Executive Director for Oakland, I'd like to present you with this proclamation. David Coulter hereby issues this special proclamation honoring Alexis McGill Johnson on Sunday, November the 6th, 2022. Whereas Alexis McGill Johnson is serving the vital health needs of women as president and CEO of Planned Parenthood Foundation of America and the Planned Parenthood Action Fund. And whereas Ms. McGill Johnson, through her organization, serves 2.4 million people each year at more than 600 health centers across the country. Whereas Planned Parenthood is providing essential health services ranging from reproductive health checks and birth control and contraceptive consultants to breast examinations and pap smear. And whereas Planned Parenthood of Michigan provides health care for more than 65,000 visits each year at 14 health centers across the state, including one here in Ferndale, Michigan. Whereas Ms. McGill Johnson has been a champion for social and racial justice, as well as reproductive rights in leadership roles at Planned Parenthood for decades. Whereas the Office of Oakland County Executive thanks Alexis McGill Johnson for coming to Oakland County, Michigan, to fight for reproductive freedom. Now, therefore, let it be known that I, David Coulter, Oakland County Executive, do hereby authorize the issuance of this special proclamation honoring Alexis McGill Johnson.
Thank you, Reverend Wilma. So we have a tradition here at Renaissance Unity, and that is that we ask what we can stand in intention and in prayer for you. Now, we know you've got an agenda on Tuesday, and if you haven't voted, vote. But this request of you is beyond Tuesday. It's personal. We have stood with so many and prayed into them. So what is it that we can see for you in this next year? What is your big prayer, your big dream, whether it's personal or professional? What is it that we can see for you?
I told backstage, this is it's always hard to pray for your own intentions and to pray with specificity. So I'm first going to ask you to pray for our patients. I'm asking you to pray for all the people who are now embarking on those 400-mile journeys to get access to health care in other states. And I'm going to ask you to pray that Michigan stays a free state, because it is a critical piece, an oasis in the Midwest. Personally, being in this space at this intersection is it's an surprisingly incredibly lonely job. Lots of stakeholders, lots of folks that have to balance. And it's also a job that is one that is so filled with the opportunity of community. And so I would ask the church to pray to help me with stamina for the next year. This fight is not going to end on Tuesday. We have to build a really long arc to get to justice. I would ask for clarity around the decision making, hard decisions that will come in the coming months. And I would ask for just to be held. I think that's it, just to be held in community. Thank you.
Will you rise and extend your hands as we bless you? You've set your intention, it's sacred with us. We will see you on our screens, we will see you on our tablets, we will see you in the newsprint, we will see you in your home and in your personal doings and making the difference that you're calling forth. We believe it, we love you, we bless you, and we truly, truly, truly appreciate you, Alexis McGill Johnson. And let's pray she makes her plain. Reverend Glenn, you can come with me.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you for being here. Be safe. Let's give Ms. Johnson another round of applause. It's amazing how the things that we all need are so similar. She asks for that stamina that allows her to persevere through the difficult times, the dark times, the challenging times. And those are the same emotions and feelings that we experience every day as we wander through this thing called life. So many times asking ourselves, do I really have what it takes to make it through to the next hour, the day, the week, the month, the year? And the answer is, yes, you do. There's something within you. It's called the Christ. It's a force that has no limits. It's infinite. For all of eternity, you can tap into it for whatever you need. You're greater than you know, greater than you've experienced. Now's the time to accept that challenge, to rise up to the next version of you. The past is the past, leave it in the past, because you're moving forward.